The Texas Tribune also does great work. They report Republicans gain ground all along the Texas-Mexico border by emphasizing border security. They spent time in Eagle Pass, Texas, a historically Democratic border town, now shifting to the right. James Barragan, reporter with the Texas Tribune, joins us now. So this isn't just a Republican talking point, James. This is actually something that you all have found.
Yeah, we've certainly seen voters who are shifting over to the Republican aisle in recent elections because of the border security issue. For people in areas like Eagle Pass that are right there on the border that have seen an incredible increase in border crossings, it's unavoidable. It's an unavoidable topic. It's right in their backyard. If you walk around Eagle Pass, migrants are nearly everywhere. I mean, you can't walk around the city without seeing them. And so it's unavoidable for them, and it's really impacting them. And it's causing some people to change their mind about where their political allegiances are.
Texas Republican minorities on the ballot for U.S. House races. I think these are state House races, 30 Hispanic Republicans, 24 black Republicans. Minorities who ran in the primaries, nearly 200 black and Latino Republicans. Minorities running for state Senate seats, 5 black or Hispanic candidates. When it comes to this specific shift of the Hispanic vote, conventional wisdom to people who don't understand the border would say, oh, Hispanics would be for open borders or for a lax border policy, but they're shifting to Republicans because of lax border policies. Square that circle for us.
Yeah, I think what people perhaps don't understand is that people who live on the border do want border security. It's like I said, it's right in their backyard. So when people are crossing, they're crossing through their backyards, they're crossing through their ranches, they're crossing through their public lands. There's a public golf course in Eagle Pass that had to be fenced off so that migrants don't cross through there. So it's really unavoidable. Now, where there's an opportunity really for both parties is to figure out how they can control that crossing or how they can reform the immigration system in a comprehensive way so that these people who live on the border cities don't have to deal with the influx of migrants like they're having to deal with, which is really impacting their local resources.
You guys do incredible reporting at the Texas Tribune, and we appreciate you being on. What I think is so interesting is that you're sort of having this one shift by Hispanics to the right, and then you're having a shift by suburban women, particularly in Dallas and in Houston, San Antonio, suburban white women to the left, particularly on the issue of abortion. Women 50 and over split on party. If the election were held today, who would you vote for, Democrat, Republican? Women 50 plus made up 1/3 of the voters in 2020. I had a very senior Republican say to me, we're not even bothering trying to talk to women 25 to 54 right now because they're so hostile towards Republicans. Is there any way to figure out if these two shifts are going to balance each other out?
Well, yeah, I think that's a very interesting question for this election cycle. There is a little bit of a realignment there on these issues, border security and abortion rights. And we are seeing some of that. And, you know, some Republican consultants that I talk to say, hey, maybe with if we pick up more voters on the border, that can help us make up some of the people that we're going to lose in the suburbs, maybe some of these white voters and white women voters in the suburbs. So I think there is a little bit of a political calculation, but really the border issue has been the #1 issue in Texas for a very long time for voters. And I think Republicans have been very wise to pick up on that issue and really appeal to voters on the border. Democrats have not been as wise. They also struggle with their messaging. I mean, they obviously, I think, want to fix the immigration issue, but their messaging is just not as good and not as strong as Republicans who come in and say, we're going to help you.
The guy who had the single sentence message, right, was Donald Trump. Which was build a wall. I will build a wall. You can argue whether it works and on and on and on, but it was a pretty clear message.
And just
the flip side of that was, you know, oh, it was seen as racist and Republicans are terrible and therefore Hispanics and Latinos and minorities aren't going to vote for any Republican. But that's not really what's happening, right?
Well, what I was going to say is that exactly. I mean, Donald Trump really changed the game when it comes to border voters. A lot of the people who used to be Democrats or used to be unengaged voters really were sort of inspired or drawn to politics because of Donald Trump's politics and his approach to border security. They sort of saw what was happening in their neighborhoods, in their cities, and said, hey, this guy's talking about the things that I'm seeing in my neighborhood, and it was appealing to them. Now, whether there has been solutions since, that's another question, but they like what he was saying. They like what he was saying.
Yeah.
It's the messaging. It's the messaging.
Yeah, well, it's really astute reporting, James, and we're better for hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.